Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, July 10th, 2024, and you are here in the Java Cafe. We are acknowledging this morning that it is, I say not minority, I say of color. Well, it's Men's Mental Health Month, but we're focusing, of course, on BIPOC, Black and Brown men. And today I have the awesome pleasure of welcoming into the Java Cafe a young man that is a minority or BIPOC of color health champion. And if folks from his support system are watching, Brother Forrest, we got I think somebody sent out your link to your support system. So 50,000 people are popping in the studio as we speak. And so that speaks to this brother's support. We want to acknowledge his wife, Angela, who posted on social media. And so there's a lot of folks that are going to tune into this brother today. And so if you pop in and be watching and you get popped out, that's just because it's preferred that you watch on Facebook and not be in the studio with us. But I would like to present to some and introduce to others, Brother Forrest Clay Shugs, who is with us this morning from, you did say Louisville, Kentucky, correct? Correct. Okay, correct. He is with us this morning from Louisville. And so he is a BIPOC of color minority health champion. And so we're going to discuss mental wellness. We're going to discuss mental illness, his journey, getting to a point of embracing leadership, moving in this space. And so Forrest, welcome to the Java Cafe this morning. It's an honor to have you here. We're glad that, we got some folks in from other parts of the country, and shout out to all your support system that's in the room as well. So please say good morning and introduce yourself, and let me know if you got some Java there with you. I shared some education we received yesterday about not drinking coffee first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, and I'm getting there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Jimmy. I learned a lot about your show once I got the invite, and I'm just thankful for the work that you're doing in your area when it comes to bringing awareness to all the things that are coming into our communities. I do have my coffee. I drink mushroom coffee, so I suppose that's good for your gut in the morning. Not sure, but hey, it's a healthy start along with my sour sop and my sea moss that I take. So
awesome.
Trying to stay on all the chords. Yes,
you're definitely there, brother. So you're in Louisville. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and in that, how did you get on this journey of being a leader in a space of addressing health equity, health for men, and just tell us a little bit about who Forrest is.
Well, my journey really starts for me in Amory, Mississippi, and so by part of arriving here to Louisville, my 7th grade year, middle school, but because my father was here. And so for me, I think that I've just had strong people in my life who's always been a part of serving. My grandfather served in the military. I had uncles serving in the military. My grandmother was one of the first Blacks to run for alderman in a small city town of Amory, Mississippi. My great aunt was one of the first Black nurses at Gilmore Memorial Hospital in Mississippi. So just this thing of service, and so for me, how I kind of just fell into it really, early on after 9/11, I joined the military for purpose and just trying to do my part. And then after that, I've just been blessed with a lot of different things and opportunities that always allowed me to come to thing of giving back. And my father had this thing of each one teach one. And so seeing him in the community and my uncles in the community doing things, it just something that just kind of fell on me. And so, you know, when you have family and then you have great mentors like William LaShore out of Mobile, Alabama, when I was down there going to school, pulling a young brother aside and, you know, kind of guiding him, guiding me. And so it just, I guess it was destined, you know, for me. Yes, sir.
I definitely get that. And similar to my experience here, going live in my head, I was just going live here and there during COVID. And one day out of a question, and thinking about it, we were doing it for a couple of weeks. And my mom asked a question about, will this be an everyday coffee hour? And I really feel that this chose me. And so I definitely understand that destined piece. Let me just jump right in and ask you, if you were to describe in one word the status or the state of health, including mental health for Black men through your work and your observations, what would that one word be? And then after that, feel free to give us the context as to why you chose that word.
Needed.
Okay. All right. So let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
I think that we're in a space right now, especially as Black men, where we're being told who we are and what not to be from so many different variations through social media. When we're being told that we're not supporting our Black women, when we're told that we don't come out and vote, you know, when we're told that we don't know how to uphold strong marriages or we don't know how to express ourselves. So we're being told a lot of things about ourselves. And so I think it's needed that we have mental health and we have conversations to where we can, you know, discuss how we really feel, where we're going, and just kind of some of the things that in the organizations that I'm a part of, breaking down that stigma. And so I think needed is something that we need to that one word for me.
With that knowledge, not just yourself, but systems, legislators, attendings in hospitals, hospital CEOs, and whatnot, I don't think they're blind to the fact that it is needed. Again, by your observation and just work, the fact that it's needed, there's our end of taking advantage when resources are equitable, when we feel welcomed, when we can maybe, for some that prefer to identify with a similar demographic. But with that need, from a systemic standpoint, why does it seem interesting when it comes to resources and equity? And let's specifically talk about men and Black men, because, you know, there's this notion that we don't make our health a priority, you know, in some cases, because we're working 2 and 3 jobs, holding down the family, and just for various reasons, that notion is out there. And so when we do decide to go, where are things with the system when it comes, you say it's needed, but my observation is the system doesn't act like it wants to make fulfilling that need easy.
So I think when you talk about systems, oftentimes that we rely on our counterparts and our white counterparts to provide those resources and help facilitate that. I think we have to start looking within our own communities and start addressing them directly ourselves. Minority Mental Health Project, which is an organization here that I sit on the board with, founded by Damien Cobble. We have a tremendous staff with Dr. Trinidad Jackson out of the University of Louisville and Mr. Deborah Barnes Byers, who works with the city through Pivot to Peace and Peace Education. And one of the things that when Damon brought this to us was to break down that stigma and look out for ourselves and not relying or waiting on someone to address the needs that are in our community. And so what we basically started out doing was going to our churches and setting up meetings where we're going to break down the stigma and we're going to say, hey, we know that there's pain and there's trauma within our community. We're not going to wait and allow someone else to dictate when the time is right to address these issues. And so we started having these town halls. We started off with, splitting just men in one session. And then the next session, we would do just women. And we would have these monthly. And then COVID hit. And so but when things like that arise, what I've learned in the military, you reevaluate and you figure
Yep.
out a way to move forward. And so what we were able to do from that was start offering services. So we were giving 8 sessions of free mental health uh, with providers. And the biggest thing that comes out of that is we sought out counselors and therapists that look like us. That's
Yeah.
a big part of why, in a sense, that we don't utilize mental health therapists. It's hard to find someone who looks like you, understands your plight. I mean, I go to therapy, and one of my therapists was, an older white woman, and she really couldn't understand why I got anxiety when I saw blue and red lights behind me. And I would come and say, hey, I had this incident where I saw, because I've had, as a black male, we've,
Oh, that's real.
we've had encounters, right? And
Yep.
sometimes
Yep.
more than one. And every time I see those blue and red lights, my anxiety would go up. And I talked to her about it one time. She just couldn't understand. And so for me, I realized that there was no space or anybody who looked like me to understand. So you have to intentionally seek out, a black or brown therapist. The same way I have to intentionally seek out a black or brown doctor for my health. Because again, that those are systemic issues that we deal with in our community because we're supposed to be stronger and be able to take more than anyone. And yes, being a black male or a black woman in this society in America, today's state, you have to be strong, but we have to also be vulnerable and be able to talk about the things that are, bothering us. And so going to that therapist and not seeing someone that looked like me to understand me, that's why Minority Mental Health Project was so important.
It's let me jump in a little bit on one of your last statements about the willingness to be vulnerable. And again, there's this notion and perception, expectation about us that we're supposed to be strong and um on one hand you hear, sometimes in, heterosexual relationships or whatever, women say, I want him to talk. He doesn't talk to me. But then sometimes if a man breaks down, shows a sensitive side and whatnot, some sisters, again, in that type of relationship, they, "Well, what's wrong with you? Why are you?" So there are times when men have been vulnerable and it hasn't worked out for them. Can you speak to the couple of things, the quote unquote manhood of being vulnerable and being healthy, which includes your mental health, and then if you can on the back end, again, you know, understanding different types of relationships we're in 2024. Speak to sort of how important it is to have a supportive partner when you're getting on a journey of being mentally well, and then if you need to address mental illness.
Well, I'll tell you, I struggled in that. I've been
Okay.
married 14 years now, and I've struggled with being vulnerable to my wife at times, and that's why
Yes.
therapy is so important. So I'm able to go to therapy, but I do know that there was a shift in that thought process. You talking about someone who played football and baseball and military and always around alpha males in a sense, and so having to be strong. I think my change or shift in how I thought about that and becoming more vulnerable was after my father's passing. I think when my father passed, it gave me a sense of, just having to be in the present,
Yep.
as far as with my kids, being with my wife. So I became a more gentle parent and a more patient parent. And then, far as being a husband, I think I started listening more. And so it took that. And then, unfortunately, not too long after that, I lost my younger sister. So, sometimes in tragedy, you realize what's more important. And so some of the things that I would be so adamant or stressed about, for us trying to be strong for this and strong for that, I had to learn to be able to come to my wife and just say, hey, you know what? I can't do it today. And it's nothing against you or anything that I can't. And then having a wife who listened and walked me through it as far as not holding it against me in a sense
Yeah.
that I need that break because when you're in this work and that goes both ways because my wife is in a very demanding field when it comes to what she does, and so we as Black men and Black women in this society right now, we're especially when you're trying to navigate and make social change for the good, it's draining, right? And so being able
Very.
to bounce that off of each other and understand that when one needs a break, someone has to step up and vice versa. So yeah, that's kind of how it
It
took place.
it is definitely, something that I observed in community and sometimes on social media and with comedians and whatnot, where they say, and again, talking about that particular dynamic of a relationship. Um, Another thing I want to ask about before we get ready to go to break, because we're learning about you, and then we want to learn about all the wonderful work you're doing. Also, a low key author. So we want to make sure folks know where they can get your product. But um, as far as there are the micro sort of things that fight us in our everyday life. We talked about, the death of your dad and the death of your younger sister. We send strength your way with that because we know that that process can be interesting. But then there are the macro things that influence us and have a bearing on us as Black men. You started out by saying what the media says and what people say about us and presumptions. What would you say to some Black men that are listening, some tools or some things to help fight the noise and be confident in who they are and affirming things that they can do for themselves? What are a couple of things that maybe you do to keep yourself sort of grounded despite what the media says, despite the look you may get from a white woman and as you're walking down the street or something? What do you do to handle the macro impact of the negative? And then maybe we can go into the minor after the break.
Oh, absolutely. Learn your history and know who you are.
Yeah.
That creates confidence and understanding that you're just so much more than what the media and what people say about you. The other thing is your support system. For us Black
Yes.
men, surrounding yourself around other positive Black men who are doing things and are striving to make change, not just in their communities, but being better fathers, being better husbands. And then once you attach yourself to those individuals, just figure out a way that you can go and you can spread that word to other individuals, other Black men that look like you, especially with our young males, young men. We definitely have to, reach out to them and let them know that they're valuable, and their lives
Yes.
are valued and who they are and where you come from. And you have so much to add to society and to this world. And so surrounding yourself around positive people is
Yes.
first and foremost.
I know that sometimes and again, it's interesting because I move a lot in social media and I can see trends and get a gauge. And there is the environments that are created with, your boys and close cousins and whatnot. And then often sometimes, and I'll be transparent, sometimes we have trust issues. I often say that my circle is a dot, and I have some folks in there, but it's a very interesting notion because it's not us only being vulnerable to go to therapy and with our partners, but it's also peer vulnerability because there is a lot of support in your peer groups. And right after the break, I'd like to maybe do a deeper dive into that a little bit. And then we're going to talk about just your advocacy. You are a lot of a part. You are a part. I can talk this morning. You are a part of a lot of movements and organizations and initiatives. And so we want to hear about those. And then we want to talk about how you took this life experience and now you have a book. And so we want to learn about that and also give folks the link to where they can go and get the information and support us. So, folks, we're going to take a quick break real quick, and we'll come back with Brother Forrest and continue the conversation. And this is definitely a related subject that we need to pay attention to when it comes to learning about prostate cancer. We'll be back with you in just a couple of seconds.
I'm a very sensitive person, and I feel the pain of my people. They know me, they call on me, and I assure them that I'm not a provider, but I am one who cares. I always say to them, well, it's better to know than not to know, because if you know, you can do something about it. Think about the loved ones around you. Think about the ones that love seeing you come through that door. Take the step and get tested. That's it.
Save lives and get screened for colon cancer. For more information, visit boston.gov/cancer.
Hey folks, we are back with Brother Forrest, and in the first segment, we talked about just his journey in moving in the space of advocacy around health and mental health. And we talked about right before the break, a lot of the macro things that influence us and our mental wellness. We're talking about mental health and wellness, particularly around Black men. And so Forrest, on the back end, we were talking about that macro impact. You gave some tools around support systems and being vulnerable in partnerships, as well as, with our peers and colleagues. On this end, beginning, what are some tools on the micro level? There are the everyday things. There are the partnerships and domestic partnerships. There are brothers that are dealing with being single dads. There are brothers that are dealing with what we sometimes classify as children's mother, baby mama, issues and things like that. It's a lot of pressure often on our brothers. How do we deal with sort of the macro and the micro? And is it the same as the support system, or are there different ways of coping with the macro influence and then the micro, which is sometimes those everyday things that can lead to statements like the straw that broke the camel's back and stuff like that?
I think you have to self-care is one thing. So finding something that you can do daily that brings fulfillment and enjoyment to your life. For me, it's going to the gym. Going to the gym is where I'm able to process my thoughts, think about things that I'm going to tackle for the day or for the week or even for the month. So finding something that you can do for self-care, that you can do for yourself. And then the other thing to that is, what I found in doing a lot of this work is that there are a lot of resources out there, and you just have to open yourself up and understand that you're not the only one who's going through it or who may be dealing with that. So like for instance, for here in Louisville, we have an organization called 2 Not 1, where they help single fathers, deal with, how to be a single dad, dealing with maybe, I don't like to say baby mama drama, but dealing with
Right.
a difficult situation that often is stemmed from the lack of communication between the two. And then how to, deal with being a single father, what that look like if you have a young daughter, having to do her hair and things of that nature. And so understanding that there are places and things out there, resources that you can utilize and to help you. But just understand that you're not alone. There are other people who may be going through it or who have the same journey that you have.
Yeah.
And so seeking those individuals out, again, it's difficult, especially as a Black male, to open yourself up.
Yeah.
But in opening yourself up, what you'll realize is that there's a lot of sensitivity to you. There's a lot of things that you may learn about yourself. And it's only for growth.
I enjoyed your answer there, and it has my brain going in a few different places. And so, though we have notes, this is an organic space. That notion about let's keep it 100. Sometimes systems aren't as welcoming, and as I mentioned before, you talked about we tend to gravitate toward people that look like us. When you got into therapy, was there hesitation, and what did you do to jump that hurdle and say, you mentioned the deaths, but even a lot of our brothers have experienced a lot of deaths,
Right.
homeboys, family, partners. what for you was that threshold, that space where you said, you know what, I'm going to bite the bullet and I'm going to at least give this a chance? How do we help our brothers take that first chance and try therapy or addressing, or even if it's a pastor, a cousin, a coach?
Uh, for me, I'll be totally honest with you. It was the military.
It was okay, okay,
The
okay.
military. I think leaving when you do something for so long, and I was in the military for 12 years. I served as a
Okay.
non-commissioned officer and as an officer, so I served on both sides. So I got a chance to see both sides of a great organization. Despite some of the flaws, it's still a great organization.
Yeah.
And it's taught me a lot about what I do and how to structure things right now. But leaving that organization after 12 years and not having an identity anymore. So I struggled with that a lot.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
and so for me, it was one of those things prior to me getting out, I started going, but I didn't take it as serious.
Okay.
It was just one of those things where, hey, I just go here every now and then I'll talk about something and then, it's kind of like a check the block. But as I move further along, and then like I said, the passing of my father, I really started taking it serious then. And because I didn't realize how broken I'm still broken. There's a lot of
Yeah.
things that I'm trying to work on myself, so I can be a better husband, be a better father. And so learning about why I do certain things and what my tendencies are. And so for me, it was the military and making that transition, trying to find who I was and who I am. And so it was a process, but that's kind of how I got into it.
It for a lot of us, and my process and journey, it fluctuates. Did a couple of therapeutic sessions, and in that, with all that you just mentioned about your journey and experience and advocacy, let's take the conversation into your decision not only to help yourself. You are very active in a lot of entities, initiatives, and organizations. And so, particularly to Louisville, or if you're part of national, let's talk about the work that you're involved in going on there. And then one of the other pieces of work is we can get ready to talk about your book. So it's interesting because part of my brand is when I say particular things, and folks in the audience probably peeped it, but you took that sip at the most perfect time because we're talking about your work and what you're doing. So you just casually was like, let's
Yeah.
talk about the work. So
Yeah.
let's get into the work. What's going on in Louisville? Tell us the things that you're a part of and how you're taking your micro experience and now applying it to a macro level where others can take advantage of what you have to offer.
So I'll say after I stopped teaching, I joined an organization called Pivot to Peace. And Pivot to Peace helped, used to call them victims of violence, but now we call them survivors of violence.
Yes,
And
sir.
so in working with survivors of violence throughout the city, it's blessed me to meet some fascinating people and kind of drive me into this era. And so, yeah, when I joined that organization, I had no idea that I would be on the mayor's criminal justice reform board, the juvenile justice reform board, and now going to be joining the legislative piece of observing that. And so trying to change things through policy and things of that nature. So that's one piece. Then again, Minority Mental Health Project, being on that board, trying to break that stigma down. Also helping New Day Ministries, start a school. And that started with just during COVID, NTI, providing a facility for students to do online learning. And so they wouldn't fall behind. And then that transitioned into a summer program and then into a school. And now this school now has over 60 students and is getting ready to get into a new building and capital campaign through Mr. Todd Moore and his program. We're closely getting to that 10 million that we set out for. And so, some great things that are going on here in the city of Louisville that I'm just fortunate to be a part of, along with helping leveling up a sobriety house get started. And so there's so many needs. And to answer your question, how do I get involved? Because I'm about my people.
Yes.
I'm about my people. I think oftentimes we want the gratification and we want the title of doing something. For me, it's just about seeing another sister or another brother trying to do something, and then how can I help? Just how can I be a part of it, and not to gain anything out of it,
Just help.
because I don't really, but not to gain anything out of it. The only thing I gain out of it is the sense that I've helped another Black person
Yes, sir.
and so on. And so
Yep.
even if I'm just there for this one part, and then you take it off and do something else, hey, I did something to help you. And then for my community, I always want to add, I don't want to take away.
Yes, sir. You mentioned sobriety, and I just have a question. I had our mayor on last week, and now it's called the opioid crisis and whatnot. Years ago, when this was plaguing just the Black community, it was the drug issue or whatever. In that piece around sobriety, I'm also aware that a lot of the numbers of overdoses, large numbers, tend to look like us. Also, with suicide, the numbers are increasing with suicide as well. And so, can you just speak to, and this is more geographical, particularly here, there is a density centralized location that we call Mass and Cass, Massachusetts Avenue, Molina Cass Boulevard. In Louisville, I see you shaking your head. What's the Mass and Cass in Louisville? And particularly with Black men, what's going on with the work there around addressing substance use and addiction issues?
So that area is the West End, or what we call the 9th Street Divide. So anything
9th Street Divide.
9th Street Divide.
Why is divide on the end? 9th Street is geographic location.
Yeah.
I got some presumptions around the word divide. What let's go there.
So once you cross the 9th Street Divide, you're going into the West End, which is the predominantly Black neighborhoods. And so what you find there is the lack of resources. Me and my wife were just talking about this yesterday. Like, what was the driving forces for, or what is it that we don't have? And so for me, I look at it from an economic issue. My wife was, referring to, getting churches more involved and things of that nature. And so for me, I don't delve into religion because I think, my personal opinion, religion is one of those things that divides us just like race. Because the most segregated day of the week is on a Sunday.
Come, sir. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I don't delve into that part, but to be fair, there is a need for our Black churches to do more and to step up, and they can be more active for those that are not. But when you cross that 9th Street Divide, there are no jobs there. And especially when we talk about youth and we talk about the demographics, that I look at the numbers. And when you look at the ages from 14 to 23, there's just no opportunity for them. And when I say 14, because, in some areas, at least in where I live at, my son was able to get a job, at 15,
Yep.
And so,
back in the day, we
right.
used to hear, and then because of budget cuts, what they did was they increased the age, and that automatically, eliminated some folks. They're getting back to it now, but it fluctuates here as well.
And so when you don't have jobs there, it's a food desert for one. You only have one grocery store. You have several little, now you're spreading a lot more small mom and pop corner stores are coming up, but still not to the mass where I live at. I mean, I have a Walmart, I have a Kroger, I have a, Publix, and all those different things that are right accessible, right? And so there you don't. And then so you're talking about a young person who has probably no vehicle, who has to use public transportation. Now you're talking about going an hour or so away from your community to work. I mean, it's just a lack of resources there. So from an economic standpoint, I look at it from that. And then, you have, unfortunately, what you're going to have now is they're going to look at that for the 9th Street Divide, and how can we gain opportunity there that's going to be beneficial for us. And so we realized that part of the reason why we even have the West End was because of the Great White Flight after segregation, right? And so now after segregation, and they fly out to different parts of the city or even
Red zoning.
Yes, and disowning, and so not putting value into the education at those schools that are there. And so now you just have where they're trying to slowly build, but it's not coming fast enough. And then we, as our own individuals, we have to know that we can't be against everything when something positive is coming to where we're at. And so when we have opportunities to bring a Walmart or other things to our neighborhood, we can't look at it and say, well, they're just going to rob the place. And say, well, you know what? Guess what? Where I live at in this Walmart, they rob there too. They steal there too. And so we have to get out our own mind that that's the notion that's going to take place. So we have to think more positive as well.
It kind of goes to the notion of what you said around the brothers, having a support mechanism, and it's the reality. And I don't think you would disagree that staying positive sometimes it sounds easier, or it's easier, a lot of times said than done. But it let's just be real. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work and it takes a certain type of mentality to stay on this journey of wellness. But thank you for answering, because up here, that is a big issue. We had a few months to where our density is, like, I remember riding down the street one day and literally had to do a double take because it was empty. I mean, the concentration there is just ridiculous. But I was just wondering how that sort of issue demonstrates itself in Louisville. When I was in San Francisco, I think the area is called the Tenderloin, to where that's where that sort of West 9th Street divide over to the West End. So it I think the only difference is it geographically where it is in each city. Our development here or there in Boston is interesting in that space. But I want to make sure that
so we have to
go ahead.
That the book, The Color of Law, that everything that we're discussing when it comes to that geographically is by design. And so, and we haven't rectified that, and so America, even in its infancy, because we're not as old as a nation as we think we are. The problem that we have right now is that, and most people, even in their regular day lives, everybody's afraid of change. You've accustomed to things and how you go about life and how you carry yourself and do things. Well, America is the same. Every time that you come across something that's going to progressively move you forward, you have those who are just afraid of change. And so, and I'm not talking about us necessarily either, our white counterparts, they're accustomed to a certain way of doing things and a certain way of how they want to move. And it's at a snail's pace. And we want change now. We need change now. We need change now. But when we want the change, we have to understand that we have to be active in doing and making changes. So sitting on your couch saying, well, they need to do this or they need to do that. Well, did you vote? Are you a part of your local system, or are you getting involved? Are you going to the board meetings for your education for your kids? Are you going to your local community things? And then you hear about it on the news. Well, they're going to do this. I didn't know about this, or how, well, they've been talking about it. So, although social media is a powerful platform, you gotta still pay attention to your local news, your newspaper, read the newspaper, because they put things in print. And then you have to actively engage. If you're a part of a church, ask your pastor, what are we doing? How are we making change in this community? And it can't be all the time, every time there's an election season, whether it's local or national. Things are going on and being put in place right now, and it's not even. And outside of election time that's gonna make an impact on your life, and if not your life, your kids or and things of that nature. So you have to engage, and so that's pretty much it.
I'm sitting here shaking my head and rocking back and forth because, sir, this is stuff we've been talking about prior to Java with Jimmy, but the last 4.5 years really, and I was trying to extract it from you earlier to where there's this balance of, limited opportunity, limited resources, but when folks like you and I and others advocate in their success, a window of opportunity opens, a resource is available. There's the other side of the fact of us. You talked about not liking change. I talked about trust. I asked you about the threshold. Sometimes, though we have a lot of points of reference of negative, I think we got to remain hopeful and still be willing to take the chance on some things. And so, we're getting toward time, and I told you yesterday we were here till about 10:20 or so. But I do want to share your website with the folks. I'm working on a tech here, but you have taken your journey and now it's come into the form of a book with all the other work that you're doing. So tell us about the book. Tell us how you came to the decision to go ahead and do it. Let's go and start talking about the book while I get the tech link and stuff ready over here.
Well, the book's called Valuable. It's available on Amazon, or you can also go to my website and you can purchase it from there. So how it came about, I was getting my MBA in sports business management. I have been a football coach. I've had a business where I trained athletes, and then I started helping athletes get into college. And so for me, I just saw that there was a lack of education to the athletes on how to navigate. And so part of one chapter in my book, I discuss mental health. I often talk about when I ask an athlete, "Who are you?" First thing they want to say is, "I'm a football player," or "I'm a basketball player." And my initial thing is, "No, who are you outside of athletics?" You are a young man or a young woman who, you do other things outside of just sports. So who are you? And so I wanted to delve into that. I also wanted to, talk about the business side. And so, in my doctoral studies, I'm writing all these things. I'm looking at all these numbers and, getting all this data. And I'm realizing, well, why are our athletes going broke? They're not getting that financial literacy. Why are no one talking about the mental health side, once the athlete stops playing the sport? Why is no one talking about how to use your platform positively? Because oftentimes athletes think that, the community, when they're saying come back or, be here for us, it's not monetary that they're looking for. It's your platform. It's you speaking up because you have more eyeballs on you and your voice is loud. So if you could talk to the atrocities that are going on inside of our community and the resources or lack thereof, and you can bring attention to, those that are in power, your voice is going to be heard over, say Granny Smith's voice, who's going down to the church and banging and saying, "Hey, we need change," but she doesn't have the outlet that you have. So using your platform positively. So all of that, again, through my doctoral studies, I wanted to address that. And so I'm doing all these writings. And then I was fortunate enough to meet a gentleman who was the writer of the owner of the African American Athlete.com. And he allowed me to present some of my writings. And, from there, I was like, I should write a book. And so, I wrote this book really geared towards middle and high school students and college kids to give them sort of a base foundation of how they can progress. And so it's a quick read. It's not a long book, but it is definitely something that is much needed, I feel. And the feedback that I've gotten has been astounding. It's not a New York Times bestseller. I wish it was.
Not yet.
But I just believe that if somebody gets it and reads it and they can take some information away from it and pass it along, I've done my due diligence on that.
That's sort of my perspective in reference to the platform as well. It's, sometimes we look at numbers and all that other stuff, but if one person hears something today from you and they make a phone call and they go into therapy, we'll never know that them being in therapy stopped them from killing themselves or stopped them from domestic violence or, using their children, or just to continue to make it another day. So I wanted to make sure we talked about that, because though the population that you say the book is geared towards is a real formative years for a lot of our young men. And it's just so interesting that they're growing up in an age of social media. We haven't got into the conversation about mental health post-pandemic.
Right.
I still don't think we've seen the full impact on our young people post-pandemic, where, people are using that term, but people are still getting COVID. And so I really appreciate, like, you have such a settledness and humility about you, but you've done so much. And I appreciate that, because we need a lot more brothers like you that are willing to take their life experience, willing to take their access, if you will, understand the context, privilege to some extent of being in these spaces. And, and I just want to mention a little bit, I'm from Boston, and, a couple of our athletes, namely, I don't know if you follow Jaylen Brown.
Yes.
He's an example.
Yes. And
When you were talking,
I think people like Jaylen Brown, and so the book really stems around the business side of athletics, right? And so
yes, sir.
I delve into the business side, because in the sports arena, sports world, it's a cold cut business. There's a gentleman that everybody should be aware of, Mr. Robert T. Green. He is the founder of Pre-Post Game. He does some amazing things behind the scenes. When you talk about the University of Iowa and that settlement of $4.something million, that was the first, settlement from a NCAA standpoint that pay out to Black players for racism. But nobody addresses that, right? Nobody talks about that. And that was a brother on the forefront of that, right? And so players, athletes using their platform, you talk about Jalen Rose. Nobody talked before LeBron James had his I Promise school. Jalen Rose had a school, actually, in a very prominent school at that. And so we have to understand that there are some positive athletes that are using their platform. The question we should be asking ourselves is, one, why aren't we not following them and supporting them the way that we should be? And two, why is the media not covering them and telling their stories and what they're doing inside their communities and the work that they're doing outside of, you want to talk about a player who's, driving this Ferrari or Lamborghini at 85 or 120 miles per hour down the street. Now, that's something that we could address, but let's address the positive things. And so when you look at shows like, on the ESPN networks or the FS1 networks, and they're having these debates, oftentimes they're debating things that are just useless to our community. And especially when you have individuals who are looking like us, who are not explaining or not putting the messages out that they should be, highlighting the work that we do or those athletes that they do, except for the exceptional time of the year, which is February. Right. And so there are countless things that these athletes are doing in the ways that they're giving back. I mean, even here, when I was the director of development of an all boys school, Rajon Rondo, I mean, he gave book bags out,
Rajon, you said right, Rondo?
Rondo,
sir.
Yeah. So he did that in our community, giving book bags away, and he does other things with his camp and things of that nature. So outside of the basketball side of what they do, there are a lot of athletes who do things throughout their community, but they're just not highlighting them. And so when you talk about the book, the book was really a reference to the business side of it and how to prepare your young athlete for what's to come. And so,
I'm going to mention this to a couple of brothers up here. There's Jamal Wernham of One Love Sports. I'm also a commissioner on the Black Men and Boys Commission up here. And so I'll mention this book to Jamal as well, because I think it's important. I was at a men's conference a couple of years ago, and one of the former patriots and this other agent, they talked about the fact that a lot of our black men that do have wealth, a good portion of them, it is gained through the sports industry. Unfortunately, as you said, they don't have people, some of them don't have people in their lives that know finances, that know saving. I just read the other day, I don't know how true it is, that Tatum really doesn't spend his NBA salary. He spends things off the endorsements and is stacking that money, so it is important that that book reach young people and young men, and I'm sure some young women can benefit from it as well.
Yeah, it's for everybody, young women,
It's
and now,
everybody. Okay.
now what you have too, you have the women's basketball is growing exceptionally, and so as it grows, they're gonna have the same trials and tribulations that the men athletes have.
Yes, yeah. Even more so, if you will, because let's not talk about I seen something the other day that LeBron James's son, his contract was like in the millions, and then what is her name, Caitlin, or the other girl, her contract was like under 100,000.
Yeah.
And so just as much I'm about equity, black and brown women, that so yeah, you tapped into something early.
What we need for the women's sports to grow, and the reason why men's sports is at such high, one, they've been around longer, right? And so you have more invested, right? And so WNBA is still a very young league, but what you're gonna have, we need more women to watch and pay attention to the sport, to the WNBA. They need that support the same way men support the NBA and the NFL. And I, my daughter is wanting to do flag football now, and so I'm promoting that. My niece played basketball collegiately. I followed that, so I'm a girl dad when it comes to sports. So I want to see it all.
Yes, sir.
I want to see it grow. And my oldest daughter, she's fashion design at Ball State, and I want to see her maybe designing some uniforms. I want to see women excel and be treated equally in our society, the same way that as black and brown people, we want to be treated equally in our society when it comes across everything. So when they talk about cutting DEI and they're not investing, that diversity, inclusion, and equity at organizations, you have to question yourself on whether you really want to see progressive change or not, or if you really just paying attention to the status quo. Because I know after George Floyd, we seen everybody jumping on the DEI bandwagon, right? But now we see
85%,
right?
85% of the funding and positions are now gone.
And when they did fill those positions, a lot of them didn't look like us. Now, if you're going to tell me about diversity, and you're going to talk about inclusion, and you're going to talk about equity, and the biggest beneficiary of affirmative action being white women who still benefit for DEI programs when that rise, and so now we're talking about, are we really trying to associate change, or was this just a moment in time where you want to capitalize off of an unfortunate incident, and so now you feel like you're in a safe space now because you didn't want the bad publicity of being one of those organizations that was against DEI during that time. So now that everything is kind of on a downward, you're able to get rid of those programs, to cut those programs. And so and even when you do fill those programs, although I'm not saying that you can't fill it with a qualified white man or white woman, they just don't have the diversity and
experience
and equity lens that we have navigating this society based off the history of the United States of America.
Someone commented and said I was being a little animated. I just saw some animation from you when you talked about you don't have the inclusion, the diversity, and the equity life experience.
We don't have the time. We don't have the time. The time is now. We can't keep talking about and then doing studies. studies
data reports
right. You know, the studies have been done the same way studies have been done for reparations. The studies have been done on a lot of things. Now, the question is, who has the fortitude to want to be on the forefront and stand up and say, I'm going to do this? Now, again, we are always doing, and Black women, you know, let's be real, Black women are always at the forefront telling society, especially in America, you know, what's coming and what needs to be addressed. But
Kamala, I'm sorry, I just had
right.
it was an outburst. Go ahead.
But when we talk about allies, we need them to start talking about the issues, not behind closed doors. We need you up front. So again,
Would you say it's both and? Because some of them are doing good. They know the sound bites, you know, in the media and all that. It's behind closed doors at their granny's house, at their uncle's house when they're making these. So I hear what you're saying, but I've been one saying the allies need to have conversations with their aunties and uncles who are in HR. Skip somebody's resume just because it says Shaniqua Davis.
And be open.
I didn't mean to use the whole
about
name,
it. And be open about it. You know, if you are in an organization, be open about it to your HR department. Be open about it to your bosses. If you are in an interracial relationship, your spouse needs to speak up, you know, in his or her space, you know, when it comes to work. I mean, we have to be vocal about making the change. And if you're a true ally, you can't be vocal when the door is closed or when it benefits you. You have to be vocal at all times. So the same way I call out the racism or I'm gonna call out the injustice, I need you to call out even louder, because those who are signing the paperwork or who have that power, you have more influence.
I'm out of coffee, bro. Because that right there deserved a sip. Listen, you're not going to do to me what my guest did yesterday. We wound up going over and but because it you know, this is an organic space, and now you're delving into a space that is really passionate to me. So I really want to be intentional about two things. One, we accomplished. We talked about the book. Folks, the link is hyperlinked right there in the comments. And so you can go to his website, learn more about him and the book as well. But also, we got on it a little bit when you were talking about your daughters. And I want to make sure, as much as we raise today that we're dealing with, I want to ask you specifically, talk a little bit about your self-care, but what do you do for Black Boy Joy, bro? How do you balance? Because take it from somebody that knows, moving in this space can be interesting. How do you re-up, if you will, your Black Boy Joy?
All right, so I'm gonna answer that question. I know we got a time.
Go ahead. We good. Take your time.
Before I do that, I just want to highlight some organizations that really look into. One is the Hobby Conference, and so what they do is they're a national organization that deals with victims of violence through hospital-based organizations, and so they're the ones who, you know, in our organization. And something the University of Louisville does an outstanding job of that. So when you have an incident, they are very proactive about intervening and not allowing retaliation. So they call on community organizations that are doing this work, who have boots on ground, who, you know, bring them up to the hospital, get them involved in these organizations and these resources. So the Hobby highlights those hospital-based organizations. So if people don't know about it, look it up. It's the Hobby, HAVI. You can Google it. And then you have Cities United, who have partnerships throughout different cities throughout the U.S. And they specifically go into communities and they are attacking gun violence at a national level as well. And it trickles down to the local levels. And then there's a young brother here in Louisville, Savi Shabazz, who is helping with reentry for those who have been who are coming out of the criminal justice system, because that's one of the main issues that we have, is that, you know, when you lock our brothers and sisters up and you're talking about rehabilitation, to understand prison does not rehabilitate. Prison just holds and creates worse more issues when it comes to those individuals.
Yep.
However, when you have those individuals coming out, one way to keep them from going back in is to provide resources for them. And one of the things that I'm adamant about when I talk about criminal justice reform is, if they've done their time, they shouldn't have to check no blocks, whether they've been in jail or not, or committed a felony. That's going to keep them from getting a job. It's going to keep them from getting housing. So let's eliminate that block. They've done their time. They've given back. And so we have to allow them the opportunity to really change their lives. So having to come out now, you have to fend for yourself. So now when you don't have those opportunities because you have to check that block, you have homelessness, you have drug addiction rise. So are we really fixing the problem? Savi Shabazz, with his podcast and his reentry program out here out of Louisville. So I wanted to highlight those organizations and those things that are going on. So now when you talk about Black Boy Joy, for me, honestly, I get a joy out of watching my kids. I have 4 kids, 21, 18, 11, and 10. And so they are very, very good about bringing me joy and making me smile as a father. And so, again, I hinted on it earlier too, going to the gym is one of the things I like. And then, I'm still a kid at heart. And so I like playing video games.
I was going to say, do you have a guilty pleasure? So it's video games.
Yeah, I'm waiting on the NCAA and the new Madden to drop, and so,
So can I show you a picture real quick? I don't know if you peeped it yet, but, just to celebrate, some of that continued Boston love.
There you go. and so I'm a huge sports fan. So I watch baseball every day. I'm watching my St. Louis Cardinals during baseball season, basketball season. I'm a Bulls fan, and we're not doing too good. But I'll tell you this: I am a die-hard Philadelphia Eagles fan, and so it's a green and black all day around here. So
we got some green.
No,
we got some green going up here too.
Excited for Boston. I was rooting for him. I definitely like Tatum. I definitely follow Jaylen Brown. I like what he's doing. So as an organization now, they have a rich history in racism as far as their organization that started out.
You're not going. Wait. You're not going.
But people don't realize.
No, it's real. It's real.
Everybody wants to pinpoint racism and those cultural differences to the South, but the North has a very rich racist history as well that people don't understand. And so,
right now,
Boston is one of those areas.
We're about to celebrate the 50 year of desegregation as far as busing here. It's hard to believe that it's only been 50 years that, Judge Garrity made a decision and all that other stuff. When you think about racism in Boston, you may have heard of South Boston, where a lot of that happened. And so while I was joking, it's a reality. I said, I don't know if I put a post up the other day, but, it's so interesting that during our parade and whatnot, there was some, things said and some things on social media. And it made me have the thought that, a lot of the base and a lot of the NBA teams are Black and brown folks, but particularly for our organization, as you named, it's the, Irish leprechaun. Boston has a very interesting history with, those who were discriminated against when they came here. Irish need not apply. And they were the main ones pushing back against segregation. And so it's real. Yeah. And I hope I don't know if you noticed, but the Celtics are now up for sale.
Yes.
We had a whole conversation the other day that trying to figure out Tatum need to gift his mother half. Jaylen Brown needs to give his mother half. And them two queens, you talked about Black women. Yeah. Imagine them 2 Black women buying that organization.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we're in a whole different space. One thing I want, since we over time, if you got a couple of minutes, you talked about Black women in leadership. Just curious to your perspective on national politics. Do you think some of this resistance to, Biden is because some Van Jones the other day put up a post that Kamala is the candidate, no matter what.
Hmm.
Either if now Biden is a little bit wise, he would step down now, put Kamala, I can't talk, Kamala in as the incumbent. But what are your thoughts? You know, I know that there's a resistance with Biden because his second in command is a Black woman. Your thoughts on national politics, and also feel free. You know, we often face the lesser of two evils, and Biden's not the best candidate. But again, we're in a situation where there's a lot lesser of what some may classify as two evils. Thoughts on national politics? I wanted to end on Black Boy Joy, but you started talking about some stuff. So let's go.
So I think when you look at, you really can't base things off of polls, right? But if there's anyone who is qualified to step in and do the job, it is Kamala. She definitely has positioned herself and shown poise in leadership in what she's doing. Again, people don't really look at the policies that the Biden-Harris, organization or presidency has done, especially for those who look like me and you. And so they've done a lot, considering what they've had to deal with. So when you talk about the lesser of two evils, I think the reason why, and I don't say his name, I'll say 45.
Yeah.
The reason why he's pushing for, he's pushing so heavy because he realizes that if Biden wins and there's unfortunately something happens, those people on the right, that's what they fear. They fear that, they're going to have the first black
woman
president, not first woman president, first black woman president. And so we saw what happened after we had the first black male president, and that's what created 45.
He is the anti-Obama.
Yeah, and so that created 45, which is their biggest fear. And so again, you have those, and I'm following in Biden, by the way, yesterday during the NATO speech, I thought he did an outstanding job. Now, do I think Biden is, I don't want to include his age in like that narrative, because just as well as he's up there in age, 45 is up there in age too. And he's spewing out a lot of things that don't make sense in his rallies or whatever. And, people are not paying attention to this dude. We already know he wasn't equipped mentally, but now we even know that he's even far more off the deep end. And then Project 2025, people don't understand. Like, we're really here in this nation. Democracy is, when Biden says democracy is on the line, people don't understand how these individuals think and what they want. And they want, when they say make America great again, it was never great for my people. But look at that era, what they're talking about referring to, and look at where we were as a people. That's what they think is great, is keeping us at a level lower than them and keeping their foot on our neck. But the difference is we're not going for it no more.
And we can't go for it no more and go all the way to the polls in November. That's the thing, brother, that it all right, you got me stuttering.
So no, so to answer your question, I think Kamala is very much well equipped. She's ready to take him. I like the women that are doing their thing. I like AOC. I just look, they are speaking for the people, because they realize that we're struggling out here, and the way that they want things to be is only going to make it worse. And again, we have to think about those who are around us who can't fend for themselves. So we got to think about our elderly. We got to think about our kids. And so as Black men and women, we have to support. Unfortunately, as it was 4 years ago, it's the same thing again, the lesser of two evils, if you want to go that route. But I'll tell you this, going with a Biden-Harris ticket is far more better than going for a 45 ticket.
45 plus one, whoever they. I
Yeah,
guess
and we
we'll
don't,
find out
and it
next
doesn't
week.
matter if Tim Scott keeps parading around and tap dancing that he wants to be the VP. Look, he doesn't speak for me and any of my fellow brothers that look like me. He is speaking for those who are lining his pocket, and he's thinking about self. And he's thinking about self-preservation, but what he doesn't understand, much like the Herschel Walker effect, when they're done using you and get what they want from you, where are you? And has
Where's
anybody
Ben Crump?
heard where is Herschel Walker at right now? Has anybody heard?
Hey, where's Ben Crump?
Ben
Where's Ben? Brother Forrest, you about to pass the sister yesterday, because I can talk this all day. It's, all politics are local, and locally we got some stuff going on here. I asked, Kentucky tends to be a red state, but you have a blue governor, which is good. We're a blue state, traditionally have had a red governor, but right now we have first elected openly lesbian governor, and so there's a whole bunch of progression, presumably going on up here. But listen, we can stay here for another hour. I know you're busy. You got a lot to do. I am going to try to indulge in some self-care today, but definitely want to stay in contact. And please send Anissa the links that you mentioned of the organizations. Thanks to Miss Teresa for mentioning a few things. Oh boy, Miss Teresa, you done blocked out our faces and everything there. But Miss Teresa she said she's going to send you some Celtics gear, so you can wear down there to a Bulls game. No, I'm messing. Because Miss Tina's brother is as skilled and wonderful as he is. You start messing around with his Bulls, we might see a different side. We might see 4. But no, brother, I appreciate you for being with us again. Shout out to your wife and those that were on today supporting. I'm going to do some commentary post you getting off. But thank you for being with us today. Please keep in contact. And at some point, I am going to pull in some political commentary from a national perspective. And so just based on what you said here, Anissa, can we note that this brother should definitely be on that panel? She's in here right now saying, thank you, Forrest. So it's much appreciated, brother. And make sure, folks, to go to the website to not only get the book, but just learn everything about this brother. And where did I put the link? There it is. Nope, I want the one with the website. There it is. So that's the website. It's hyperlinked in the comments, so you can just click it right now and go to the website. Come back here as I give my closing commentary. But Brother Forrest, thank you. And we'll definitely be in touch, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, man. Folks, I hope that you were inspired and learned and got some information from our Brother Forrest today. Definitely inspiring conversation. I don't know what it is in these last 2 days, and I'm supposed to be on vacation. We done went an hour and 20 minutes. So UCB, I'll get 90 minutes today. I'm getting ready to get off of here. I'm not doing no extra. Anna Pruitt, and I think a couple of others. Oh, there go the missus. When I saw her post the other day, the only thing I could think of was "Stand by your man." She put a post up and everything. Angela, thank you for all that you do to support that good brother, and all of the others. Deborah, as well, some names I haven't recognized before. All of those that are in here supporting our Brother Forrest, thank you. Please consider coming back. For those of you that are watching on Twitter, we're going to figure out a way to show you how you can comment and engage in the conversation. Our Twitter audience is growing, and we appreciate all of you that are here. Make sure you retweet and follow over on Twitter. Shout out to everybody that's over on Instagram. I see Nikki is in the building. Eddie is in the building. Helena was in the building. So we appreciate all of you that were over there. Darian was in the building as well. Maurice was in the building. So we appreciate all of you over there. Listen, I don't think we have a guest lined up for tomorrow. And if we do not, Anissa, do we? If we do not, I think I'm going to take tomorrow off. As I get ready to wind down and return I heard it's hot up in Boston. Y'all got a heat advisory and everything. So I may take tomorrow, next couple of Fridays off anyway. Miss Tari, I am eating and drinking. I'm hydrating. I actually ate breakfast today before having my coffee, as the carer scolded us yesterday and told us not to drink coffee on an empty stomach because it makes your belly fat. So that's all I needed to hear. All right. I am off of here, everyone. We'll see you guys possibly tomorrow, but if not, on Monday at 9 a.m. And I think that's it for me. Oh, so I brought up the concern that a lot of people have around the demotion of Eddie Crispin post his appointment to the Post Commission. And I had a lot of conversations yesterday, one with the mayor, the Black Men and Boys Commission had some dialogue going on electronically. And I reached out to the commissioner's office. He right now is not around. My understanding is he's away on personal time, which he deserves. And so, you know, there's just a lot of dynamics, a lot of things that are behind the scenes with this. And I will surmise it like this and say that communication is paramount when it comes to ensuring that community is aware of significant changes to any position within a municipal administration that could impact our voice being reflected in this particular case on the command staff. And so the question remains that who, not saying that anyone else on the command staff isn't, but there was a level of presumed confidence that with that Black man on the command staff, and we have a Black commissioner, yes, but he oversees everything. And I'm sure violence prevention is a priority for him. We actually have a very assertive invite into the commissioner's office. I haven't talked directly to him. I've talked to his comms folks, and press and comms do what they do. But I made it very clear yesterday that, and every time I see the commissioner, Jimmy, I'm coming on. Is it on my end or is it on your end? I'm saying, no, Commissioner, we haven't extended a formal invite yet. The invite's been extended. And with all due respect, as with the mayor and some other things, this man can't talk about changes. But I think he can give, you know, statements in media and whatnot, you know, it's 10:24. I'm on vacation. What I will say is I did put out a call for folks to call 311 and the mayor's office and the commissioner's office to ask the question, what's going on? I don't know if y'all did, but we're going to try this so we can address it in one macro setting. We are assertively trying to get the commissioner to come on and chat with us, and not just about that, but maybe he can educate us about the command staff. Maybe he can tell us who is that voice that, you know, is helping him push that priority. I'm aware that there's a lot of significant upper leadership changes happening at BPD right now. And so, yeah, that's it for me. It's 10:24, 10:25. I'm getting off of here. You all have a great Wednesday, and we will more than likely see you on Monday at 9 a.m. and not tomorrow morning, but I might pop up. But one way that you can know is if you have not yet on Facebook, go follow Java with Jimmy. Turn on the notifications for when I go live. If you're watching on Twitter, make sure you follow Java with Jimmy and retweet this broadcast. If you were on Instagram and watching, you got the notice then, you're already following me. But like it. All right. I'm out of here. Love you too, Ma, Miss Teresa. Miss Teresa, listen. I told Anissa somebody the other day to tell them that we could chat sometime in September. I'm this summer. I'm just yeah. So we will be back here on Monday at 9 a.m. Have a great weekend. I'll go ahead and say that now. And we'll see you on Monday at 9 a.m. Peace, everybody. Have a great day.